Hi everyone, it's Lindy on here from Pink Whisper Designs. Today I'm creating a card for the Art Impressions design team, and we're going to be using this brand new Glamour pop-up. We're also going to be creating a really fun spotlight for the inside of the card. So let's go ahead and get started. So to create my card base, I'm using the Strathmore Bristol Smooth 100-pound cardstock. This measures 10 inches by 5 inches, and I'm scoring at 5 inches. So we'll have a square 5 by 5 inch card. I'm just going to flip that over so that the inside is facing up. And I'm going to put a little bit of tape down from my Tombow permanent tape dispenser. And I'm going to center this score right on one of those lines, just to make sure that I can line everything up. So now going 1 inch over from the top and 3 inches over from the bottom, and this is why the grid on this glass media mat is really useful. I'm going to put some purple tape there. So 1 inch over from the top and 3 inches over from that score line on the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing here on the right hand side. Then I'm going to press that tape out really well, and I'm using my Picket Fence Studios Life-Changing brush. I'm using the largest one. And my squeezed lemonade, this is the Tim Holtz Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to apply that squeezed lemonade all over this area. So what I want to do here is create a spotlight for my Glamour girl. I want to create a really light area here where the spotlight is shining down. So I'm just going to apply a nice coating of that all the way around. Then I'm going to add a little extra right along the edges of the tape there. Now I'm going down one brush size here, and I'm going to remove my purple tape because I don't need to define that line now. Once it's been defined, we're just going to go right up to that line. So I've got the next size brush down, and I'm using my picked raspberry Distress Oxide. And now I'm going to start adding some ink right up to that yellow line there. So I'm going to start off to the right and then just kind of work my way over to that yellow line. And I'm going to go over it slightly just to create a little bit of a shadow there. So I'm going over that line maybe about a ½ inch or so. Now I'm going to take the next smaller brush that I have, and I'm using the Wilted Violet. And now I'm going to do from the corner up to the picked raspberry. And I'm just going to kind of blend right into that next color. Then I'm going back to the picked raspberry, and I'm just going to blend those two a little bit more. And now with the next smallest brush, I'm going to go ahead and take the Chip Sapphire, and I'm going to start at the corner here and work my way in. And I'm just working my way into the violet color. And here we're just kind of adding a shadow around the edges of the card here. I want the spotlight to be the focus. So now I'm going back to the violet, and I'm just going to blend those two together a little bit more. And now the last color I want to use is the Black Soot. And that's going to create the dark edges so that my spotlight will be highlighted a little bit more here. Now, while I have very little ink on that brush, I'm going to go over the yellow area, over the spotlight area. Because when you see a spotlight, normally it has like a little bit of a foggy effect to it, and that's kind of the look I'm going for here. So when the brush has very little ink left, I'm going to add a little bit to that yellow area. And then I'm going to continue darkening up the corners here and a little bit at the bottom. Now I'm going to do the same exact thing on the other side. I'm going to try to keep this area as clean as I can because I want to keep the back of my card clean. So use your water just to clean up after each little section that you do here, just to make sure that you're not transferring any ink to the back of the card there, or I should say the front of the card. So now I've got that cleaned up, and I want to take my Distress sprayer, which just has water in it, and I'm going to spritz this panel. And that's going to give me these little splatters, which again are going to give kind of that effect of a spotlight, where you get that little bit of that little white that usually is floating around in the spotlight. So I'm trying to get that effect here. So I went ahead and spattered this about 3 or 4 times, just kind of picking the areas that I wanted to highlight here. So you can continue doing that until you get the look that you want. Now you want to make sure you let this completely dry. I'm just going to lightly heat set it, and then I'm going to set it aside to dry a little bit more. So for the stamps today, I'm using the Art Impressions Glamour pop-up set. And you also have coordinating dies with this as well. And for cardstock, I'm using the Nina Classic Crest 80 pound. You want something a little bit lighter here, because this is the paper we're using for the pop-up, so we don't want the paper to be too thick. For coloring, I'm using my Tri-Blend Spectrum Noir markers, and this is the Dusty Purple blend. And these are an alcohol marker, and you get 3 colors on the one marker. You get light, medium, and dark, all in one marker. And I've done other videos with these, so you can always check my blog and look for that. Just type in the search bar Tri-Blend markers and you'll find all the videos I've done with those. So what's really nice about these Tri-Blends is all the color coordinating is done for you. So the markers have a light, medium, and dark, so you don't have to think about this. All the thought process and the color combinations are figured out for you, and that's what I love about it. It just makes it so much easier. And also, you don't have to have a lot of pens. Basically, you get 3 colors in one marker. So if you travel around with your markers a lot like I do, you'll find this really convenient. It's really easy to grab your markers and go. So what I like to do is start with my lightest color first. Then I go to the medium, which is in the center of the pen. And then you flip the pen around, and that's where your darkest color is. And they're marked right on the pen as to what number you're using. So you'll know exactly which one you're using. And then I just flipped it around there again, and I'm going back to that lightest color, and I'm going to blend everything out. And it's really that simple. So start with your lightest color, add your medium color, then go to the dark color, back to the light color, and blend it out. Now this is just a regular alcohol marker that I had that's Spectrum Noir, and it's BGR1, which I just want to create a little shadow here. I just didn't have this color in my Tri-Blends. And then I'm using my blender pen just to move that ink around a little bit, just to create a little shadow down here at the bottom. I want to keep it white at the top, so I'm just going to add just a little shadow there. And I'm doing that on all the little white sections of her jacket. I kind of wanted it to look a little bit like fur. So I'm just using that blender to move the ink around a little bit. Again, I didn't have a light enough shade in my collection, so this is how I chose to do it. So just kind of make what you have work. It's just, it's just to create a little shadow here. So now with the BGR1 and the BGR3, I'm going to go ahead and do her hair. And I'm just kind of going to do the same thing here, just add a little bit of a shadow to the hair. I kind of want to keep some white areas. And I'm kind of going for a look, you don't see it that much anymore, but when I was younger and older women dyed their hair, they had like a blue tint to it. And I never really knew what that was about, but I kind of wanted her to have that effect, that little bit of that blue tint in her hair, and then some little highlights of white. So that's the look I was going for. So it is kind of a weird combination, but I just remember that so much when I was a kid. So I'm going with fair skin and pale pink blends to do her skin tones. So I'm going to start off with that fair skin marker in the lightest one. Then I'm flipping it around to the medium, and then I'm going to go to the dark. Just adding a little shadow there where the jacket meets her hand and where the fold in the palm of her hand is. I did the other hand the same way, and now I'm going to go ahead and do the face. Again, using that same marker. And don't be too fussy where your shadows and highlights are. At least I don't. I just kind of go with what I think, how I feel about it. So, don't make it too hard. If you don't know where to shadow things, don't worry about it. The easiest thing I find if you're not sure is just to keep the center the lightest. And that way you don't have to worry about, just always think of that the light is coming kind of from the middle. That's usually the easiest way to go. Then I'm adding a little bit of the pink to her cheeks and to her lips there. And I'm just going to add a little shadow on the lips as well. And I'm just going to finish coloring her face here just up underneath her hair, adding a little shadow there as well. Now for her hat, I'm strictly just going to color it in, no shadowing. Now with Citrus Blend, Citrus Green Blend, and the Pale Pink Blend, I'm going to color in this little headdress that she has. So with the pink, I'm going to do the center of the flower. And then the leaves, I'm using the citrus color. I'm going to start with that lighter color, add my little medium shade there, and then a little bit of the darker shade, just kind of where it meets the top of the flower there. And then I'm blending that out with the lightest color again. And I'm going to do the same thing here with the flower. For the flower, I'm going to add some shadows where those petals are underneath, and then kind of where it comes out from the center of the flower as well. And then I'll just blend all of that together. And I'm going back to the purple here to do the feathers. I didn't want to introduce too many colors because my spotlight background I felt was like the star of the show. I wanted it to be bright and cheerful and really pop when you opened up the card. So I'm going to keep her fairly muted, and she's so eccentric looking anyway. I didn't think I needed to do a lot of colors here. So I'm going to do the feathers the same way I did the leaves, kind of adding a little shadow down the center there and then pulling it out towards the edges. And you can see you get a couple cute sentiments with this set as well. You get the happy birthday and the hello fabulous. You get a bracelet there down on the left hand side, which I'll show you a little bit later. And then you get a couple extra flowers with this set. So I'm coloring in her glasses with that pale pink color. I stamped and colored a few more of the flowers. Now I'm going to take my die, and you do want to spend a little bit of time there making sure you line that up really well. And I'm going to die cut all of these little pieces. I'm running them through my Spellbinders Platinum 6 die cutting machine. Now I stamped another one of the little headdress there. I just stamped that portion, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that out, and I'm following right along the lines of the stamp here. And I'm going to take my black Tombow marker and just finish off those edges. I'm just brushing it right up along those edges. And this is going to be for the front of our card. Now we have this all set, so I'm going to go ahead and fold my card in half and press that out. It's all dry now. You do want to make sure it's completely dry before you do this. And now my little lady's going to sit in here. Now she could be up higher on the card as well. She is designed to pop out the top of the card, but I want her in that spotlight, so I'm going to pull her down towards the center of the card. Now you can see that there's score lines on her. So when you die cut it, it will also create these scores. So the first one I want to do is fold it towards the back, right on that center score line, and I'm pressing that out really well. Now the next line I want to do is right across the bottom here, right across where her button is, and I'm going to go ahead and press that out. Now we have two diagonal lines on the left and on the right, and I'm going to fold those in towards me. And I'm going to press those out. And then the last part here is a little bit tricky. You want to fold in, there's a score line right there on each side, and you're going to gently fold that in. And then you want to tuck this in. So you can see I'm going to fold that in there. So I'm pinching this together and folding it down. So this will lay flat inside the card. Let's do that again on the other side so you can see I'm going to pinch that in, and then I'm going to press that flat towards the back. And that'll give us our little pop-up mechanism here. So you can see that's going to pop up and down when it's inside the card. So let me show you this one more time. So we're going to fold it back on that center score and back on that bottom score. Then the two diagonal ones are going to fold in towards me. And then we're going to take and pinch that little area right there and fold it towards the back. And then that will lay nice and flat inside our card. And again, you can see that creates the little pop-up. So now that we have that all set, we want to apply the glue just on this lower section here. So you just want to attach the glue. I'm using the Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to do the gluing because it's a nice strong adhesive. And I'm just applying it along that score line there, along that fold to the bottom. I'm going to do that same thing on the other side. And you do want to press up the glue right to that edge just to make sure that it lays nice and flat inside your card. Now I'm going to place that center, that little V there on the center of her, right on the score line. And then I want to make sure that my score line at the top lines up with the score line on the card. So you do want to double check that to make sure it's lined up. Then make sure you haven't placed her too low, because if she's too low, she'll stick out of the bottom of the card when you fold it closed. So you do want to double check that as well. I'm just pressing that again with my bone folder just to make sure it's nice and secure. And now we have our little pop-up. Here's her cute little bracelet, and you can see it die cuts a little slit in that as well, so you can just slide it on her wrist there. And that'll lay flat when the card is closed. So I want it to look like she's throwing flowers out kind of into the audience or at you when you open the card. So I'm taking the little flowers that I die cut. I die cut about eight of the flowers. And I'm just going to place them around so it kind of looks like she tossed those flowers. And then I'm just going to take my Nuvo adhesive and I'm just going to attach those to the inside of the card here. I'm just trying to figure out about where I want those to be. Now with the black soot ink, I've cut out this Hello Fabulous. I stamped and cut it. And I just cut it in the shape of a rectangle here. And I'm just edging it with a little bit of the black soot ink. And I'm going to place that in the upper right hand side of my card. I'm going back to my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive and I'm just going to make sure that I press that glue down right to the edges here. And then I'm going to attach that to my card. I'm just going to place a couple of acrylic blocks on that just to make sure that it dries nice and flat. Now for the front of my card, I want to keep it fairly simple because the inside is just so fabulous. So I'm going to take a piece of lavender cardstock. I'm placing some 1/4 inch score tape on here. And I'm going to go ahead and center it on the front of my card. And again, I want to keep the front of the card fairly simple. I thought I would make a belly band for the front to keep the card closed, and I'm using some sparkle cardstock. And I'm going to, this is cut at 1.5 inches by 11 inches. And that's going to wrap right around my card. And you don't want to wrap it too tight because you want to make sure that you can slide it on and off. So this is going to go, I'm going to have the seam be on the back of the card. So I'm just lining that up. I'm going to take a little bit more of that score tape and I'm going to place a couple little strips of it here. Then I'm going to just cut away any excess. I'll remove the backing from the tape and then attach these two panels together. Again, not too tight, just tight enough so it will slide on and off. I just want to make sure I line those up properly there. So now I'm going to grab this little rounded rectangle. This is the third smallest one here. And that's going to give us a beautiful stitched edge all the way around. And these are the rounded rectangles. These are the double stitch dies. I'm placing some tape on the back of that, and this measures 1.5 inches across, so it's going to fit exactly on our belly band here. And I die cut this out of the Strathmore Bristol Smooth cardstock. Now with that other one, that little headdress that we had cut out earlier, that's going to go right on the center there. I'm going to pop that up with a little bit of foam mounting tape. And that'll just give it a little bit of dimension. And I'm going to center that here and press that down. So that's all I'm doing for the front of the card. I want to keep it really simple. So I'm using my Nuvo Aqua Shimmer Glitter Gloss pen, and I want to add some sparkle. I want to add some sparkle to the inside as well, just to kind of coordinate with that sparkly belly band that we have. And I'm going to add some to her outfit as well, on all the little white fur parts of her jacket here. I added a little bit to the bracelet, and then I'm going to slide that bracelet right on her wrist there. And now you can see this is the front of the card, so it looks fairly simple and elegant. And then when you open it up, it's this wow, fabulous, glamorous girl here. So I also was thinking it would be fun if I die cut some more of the little flowers, and when just some loose ones, and when they open it up, they kind of like fall out, just as like confetti. I thought that might be fun. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to visit me at pinkwhisperdesigns.com. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. Have a great day. Bye-bye.